nothing there, ref. That she got the ball. Good morning, Spurs fans all around the world, and welcome back to the channel as we build up to another huge match day here at N17. Tottenham are about to play their third game in 7 days as we welcome Fulham in a London derby in the Premier League. During the week, Spurs did show genuine signs of improvement in that chaotic, high-scoring PSG game in the Champions League. Much more aggressive, much more intensity in and out of possession, and also a hell of a lot better going forward. But with all that being said, it was still yet another defeat, and that cannot continue. Frank simply needs to learn what it takes to manage at a Big Six club, where it's not just about winning, but how you win. Spurs fans demand on the front foot football with a lot of energy. But there is good news on that front. Thomas Frank made a very clear pledge to Spurs fans in the pre-match press conference that Spurs will attack today, Spurs will be proactive, Spurs will come flying out, be positive, intense, energetic and forward thinking. Now this is exactly what the fan base has been crying out for, so let's hope the team can deliver it. Our recent league form has dropped us all the way down to 9th, but here's the thing. We are only 2 points off 5th, yet also 2 points off 13th. That tells you everything. One win today could propel us back up the league, and then all of a sudden things are looking good and the pressure and the noise calms down. However, another defeat could propel us down to the bottom half of the table, and all of a sudden that scrutiny starts ramping up a hell of a lot more, which in my opinion makes this game today a must win. And if it's certainly not a must win, it's certainly a must not lose. So with all that being said, this is my predicted lineup that I think Thomas Frank will go with to take on Fulham today. Starting with goalkeeper, and Vicario will keep his place. Now, make no mistake about it, despite Fulham's league position, they do create chances. Their underlying numbers show that they regularly generate shooting opportunities, even if the scoreline doesn't reflect that half of the time. So Vicario is likely to be in for another busy night here. Now, one of Tottenham's biggest defensive issues this season has been conceding goals from the edge of the box. We've already conceded 9 so far this season from the edge of the area. It's a clear pattern that opponents know that they can't get shots off in and around the D far too easily, and you could make the argument that the double pivot or the centre backs could do a lot more to be able to get out there and close it down so that Vicario doesn't get as exposed from long range. But when you look at the pattern here, Thomas Frank's history at Brentford shows that he does allow low percentage long range shots as part of his defensive structure. Last season, no goalkeeper in the Premier League faced more long range efforts than Flecken, and no keeper made more saves from distance than Flecken, which shows this is by design, that Thomas Frank would rather compact the box and not give up any opportunities in there, and would rather give up opportunities from shooting from distance. And if he sees it as low scoring opportunities going forward, it certainly reflects it how he sees it defensively, which means then Thomas Frank does expect the goalkeeper to be able to be elite at dealing with shots from outside the box. And I do think this is an area that Vicario will need to improve if he wants to continue to be number 1 at this club beyond next summer. So make no mistake about it, it's going to be another huge test for Vicario here today. At left back, it's of my opinion that Thomas Frank will bring Destiny Udogie in here, with Jed Spence dropping to the bench. Jed Spence hasn't exactly covered himself with glory against PSG midweek or against Arsenal, which means I do think Destiny Udogie is set to return here today. Defensively, he may come up against Adama Traore. Adama Traore is fast and he is physically strong. However, I also think Udogie is also just as fast and as physically strong. Although Adama Traore does a great work in terms of bringing his team up the pitch, he doesn't exactly generate a lot of end product, and that's why I think there's a huge opportunity today here for Destiny Udogie to bomb forward. With Fulham sitting in a low block, what you need is your fullbacks to get nice high and wide and provide a bit of width and go on the overlap. And by doing that, if they don't get the ball, they're dragging players with them, which then means they free up the winger then to be able to put in a cross and take his time to deliver an excellent cross, or cut inside and try and deliver a shot on goal. And given that's one key asset of Destiny Udogie's game, that he will bomb forward, I think it makes him the perfect option to start here today to help our creativity going forward. Now moving on over to right back, and Pedro Porro did return to the side against PSG after being dropped for the North London derby, and I think he is set to continue here. And the reason why I think Pedro Porro will retain his place over Jed Spence is I am expecting Fulham to sit in low block. And Pedro Porro is one of the best crossers of the ball in this team, consistently providing quality crosses. Not only that, he also has the ability to be able to put the ball in behind and find runners that are making that run. And lastly, from set pieces, he probably has one of the best deliveries in the team. And given how much I do think Fulham will sit in and play on the counter-attack, and given that Frank wants to come out flying out of the traps, I think Porro is absolutely essential to that with the quality he possesses in possession. Moving on to right-sided centre-back, and Christian Romero had an absolute howler midweek, but also is suspended after an accumulation of yellow cards, which means Kevin Danzo will come into the side. Now with Kevin Danzo, his biggest assets is how physically strong he is and how good he is in the air. And I am expecting Raul Jimenez to be Fulham striker. And he is strong, he is physical, and he is aggressive. So I would expect that Kevin Danzo to take on this battle, which then puts the pressure on his partner, Mickey van de Ven, to be the one to take on the responsibility to be able to progress that ball and pick up that slack with Romero being out. And the reason why Mickey van de Ven needs to pick up that slack is because Danzo is a bit shaky on the ball. Van de Ven is a hell of a lot smoother and has the ability to do it. And by Mickey van de Ven playing out from the back and taking on that responsibility to transition the ball, I do expect Destiny Udogie and whoever plays left wing to see a lot more ball than what they usually do. Mickey van de Ven will also captain the side today in Romero's absence, and I think it's a fair point to make that when Mickey van de Ven is captain, he tends to raise his already high standards to an even higher standard and put in one hell of a performance. Mickey van de Ven also is the club's top goal scorer and provides a threat in the opposition box, and with Danzo in the team, we can utilise them long throws. We should end up getting a lot of corners today off the back of Fulham sitting in, which means Mickey van de Ven's threat then becomes absolutely essential today, and hopefully he can pick up a goal, because a goal from a set piece could literally be the difference here today. And also defensively, on the counter-attack, Mickey van de Ven is going to be absolutely crucial with his recovery pace to be able to get back and snuff out some of the danger that Fulham will throw at us today. Moving into midfield, and I don't expect Thomas Frank to ditch the double pivot in the way I think many people are expecting. I expect it to continue, but just a different variation of it. I do expect João Paulinho and Lucas Bergvall to come into the double pivot today. Now with João Paulinho, he is up against his former club, and my God, am I delighted to actually be playing with him today rather than against him, because one thing that used to frustrate me coming up against Fulham is João Paulinho routinely sitting in, pulling down attacks, stopping our momentum, and that's exactly what we're going to need from him today. With Bergvall probably been given the license to get forward, which I'm going to explain in a minute, it's even more important that João Paulinho has positional discipline here and pulls down the counters like he used to done against us. But also when he gets that ball, it's up to him then to move it quickly and look to keep the pressure on Fulham and keep them penned in their own half. Also, like I said, we have conceded a lot of goals from the edge of the area, and it will be on João Paulinho and Lucas Bergvall today when they do get opportunities in around the D to get out there, be aware, and show a lot more aggression and intensity in terms of closing it down, because we can't continue to concede goals in around the edge of the box. Now, the reason why I think Lucas Bergvall will be included is because Papa Matasar made a couple of errors leading to goals the other day. He had a bit of a performance to forget against PSG in that regard, and I think he'll find himself very lucky to come back into the team here today. However, if he does, he better put on one hell of a performance, because the pressure is on him a little bit. Now, it's also Archie Gray could be in contention to start here today. It was absolutely brilliant during the week, but the reason why I'm edging towards Bergvall over Archie Gray is simply because when you look at the amount each has appeared, it's clear that Thomas Frank has a bit of a favourite on one player that he's leaning more to than the other. Bergvall has simply made more appearances, and that's why I think he will start here. Now, with Bergvall, from the very beginning against the PSG game, he provided a hell of a lot of energy, and that's one thing I've always praised about the kid, that he is so enthusiastic about affecting the game. If he doesn't have the ball, he's so enthusiastic about going and winning it back, but also when we do have the ball, he's so enthusiastic about trying to affect the game going forward. And one common thing is against PSG, he broke out from the midfield, providing runs forward, and they found it very hard to deal with. And that's where our first goal came from. Him breaking down that right hand side, him and Archie Gray working a bit of quality, and the first goal came off the back of it. And it's of my opinion, you don't need to play Bentancur here either. And I think the fact that Bentancur started against PSG means he'll probably be rested today and he will be safe for that away day against Fulham. And at home, many people have made the argument you don't need a double pivot of two players sitting in. And with Thomas Frank promising that we are going to look to go forward, I think it's essentially gets a midfielder in there that is going to show a lot more energy, break forward. And by breaking forward, what you do then is you can either make runs that other people haven't accounted for, that they're surprised about, and you can be found and you can score off the back of it. or in general, you create another body that someone needs to pick up, which then creates more space for others around them. And that's why I think it's essential for Lucas Bergvall's inclusion today. Now, one thing with Lucas Bergvall I have noticed consistently at his time with Tottenham, he is a bit sloppy on the ball. If he could tidy that up, he would be in this team week in, week out. And then to complete the midfield three, it's of my opinion, Xavi Simons will come back into the lineup. Now, I know he hasn't started the last 2 games, but if we're looking to break down a low block, this is exactly what we bought Xavi Simons in to do. That number 10 that sits in there, that can get on the ball, that can just either provide quality balls in behind for the likes of Kolo Muani or some of the wingers, or deliver quality crosses, or provide that goal threat from in and around the edge of the area. Now, Xavi Simons has took his time acclimatising to the Premier League, but I also don't think Thomas Frank really knows how to use him. He didn't really have a player of Xavi Simons' sort of mould at Brentford. He more had 3 workmen in midfield, and I think he's struggling to adapt and fit Xavi Simons in. However, I think it's essential that he plays here, because if anyone's going to unlock this PSG team, I think it will be Xavi Simons. He has shown in glimpses his capability. You go back to Leeds, he played a lovely little chip ball over the top for Pedro Porro. You're going to need plenty of that today. You go back to the game against Copenhagen, he brought Muani in, creating chances for him, worked well with Wilson Odobert, and also set up Brennan Johnson's chance as well. So he's shown that he can do it, and hopefully today is the day he announces himself in a Tottenham jersey. Now, moving on to right wing, and I do think Mo Kudus will come back in here. Look, I know Brennan Johnson was suspended, and you could argue, he's fresh. However, Kudus was also on the bench for the majority of that game midweek, which I do think Frank was maybe holding him back for today and for Newcastle. Today, where he's going to be important is his ability to be able to get on the ball and beat players. And by doing that, you drag other players out of position. And this is very important against a low block, which then means you create space for others to run into, or for you to pass the ball into them, and for them to be able to get their head up. And it's just a knock-on effect, and it creates opportunities for Tottenham. And this is where he's going to be absolutely crucial today. Not so much his hold-up play, but his ability to be able to get on the ball and beat players. Now, I take into account he hasn't exactly been great recently. He's been a bit off the boil. However, it's clear that the talent is there, and we are really looking on him today to lead that line, lead the charge against Fulham. We need a massive game from this guy today. Now, moving on to left wing, there is a case that you could start Richarlison here if you wanted to create a lot down the right-hand side, get Richarlison crashing in at the back post, effectively coming in as a double striker and helping Muani get on the end of things. However, it's of my opinion, I do think he will go Wilson Odobert, because for me, we need to be able to, when you're up against a low block, you need to be able to break them down all across the front line. You need Xavi Simons to do it down the middle, you need Kudus to do it down the right, and you also need Wilson Odobert to do it down the left. With Richarlison, one thing he's not is smooth in possession in terms of first touch, in terms of delivering crosses, in terms of just being able to link up with others. Wilson Odobert is much more smoother in that department, and today is going to require a lot of that off the left-hand side so that we can pose a threat down both wings. And that's why I think Wilson Odobert will be included today. And it just seems that he does seem to be the fancied option down this side. And then that brings me on to the guy up front. Now, of course, Richarlison, this does seem a little bit harsh on him. He has scored 3 in his last 3. Shows that the guy maybe isn't as bad as people make him out to be, and that if you do provide him with chances, he can take them. However, with Kolo Muani, that performance midweek, that's the performance I knew he had in him, and I was just waiting to see. 2 goals, 1 assist against his former club. Now, it remains to be seen, was it a game in isolation where he was just motivated to maybe prove them wrong, that they had made a mistake? Or was it the making of a man that needed that performance, is going to kick on, and we're going to see that routinely? But the reason why I think we should go with Muani in general is I think his all-round game is a hell of a lot better than Richarlison's. Not only can this guy get on the ball, be able to link up and bring others into play, which that intricate moves is going to be important against a low block, but he can also get on the ball, drive at players like his second goal against PSG, and take them on and create his own goal-scoring opportunity. And I think that's absolutely going to be vital today. At the moment, we are waiting for that initial guy to step up and fill Harry Kane's boots. We've given Richarlison countless opportunities. He's proven that maybe he's alright as a squad option, but not reliable to fill Harry Kane's boots. Dominic Solanke has been injured a lot of the time he's been here, but again, when he's played, doesn't ever really look like he's going to really sort of fill them boots. Whereas I think with Kolo Muani, when I've watched him play, I've seen more than enough to know that if we can get this front line going, he can certainly be the guy to finally replace Harry Kane, a guy that can finally step up on the big occasions, start delivering match winners and stuff, which helps put points on the board for Tottenham Hotspur. So guys, that's my predicted lineup that I think Frank will go with. Let me know in the comments if there's any changes you would make. I know there's an argument for some people to go 4-4-2 today. Let me know if you think that's certainly an option. The reason why I don't think he will is I think he'll prefer to try and get this formation working if he can. It's one that he's largely trying to stick with all season, and I think in games like this you have to sort of persist with it. I just think where it's gone wrong in the past is the over rotation in the front line. I think it's like 17 or 18 different rotations in 19 games. It's absolutely madness. At some point you've got to start putting players out there consistently to build up patterns of play, and I'm sick of saying it, and hopefully Frank realises it. But guys, make no mistake about it, it's a big game. Like I said, it's only the start of a big build up for today's game. Make sure you get back here at 5 o'clock today for the pre-match build up. On your way out, smash a like, hype the stream up, and I'll see you back here later on. As always, come on, you Spurs.